You can't hold an artist accountable for the impact of your interpretation of their art. It's just weird. For the first time in my life, I'm sort of glad that Kurt Cobain is not alive. Let me explain. For me, Kurt was always this representation of peak artistry, an artist for art's sake. There have always been these little battles on art, mostly from the uber conservative crowd, but for a long time, there's been this multi-front war on art. From political attacks on both sides of the aisle, to corporations, to tech-fueled cultures and algorithms, there is a war and art is losing. There are not a lot of times in my life that I can confidently say that I reacted the best way possible. There's one time I can confidently say that. It was my reaction to a movie about autism by Sia called Music. I didn't like the art. That movie hurt my feelings hard and deep, so I reacted by making an album about being autistic. I practice what I preach. The only way that one can really argue with art is with more art. Not better art, but it has to be art. That is a truth, because the moment you try to reality orientate art and try to argue with it in this stable and grounded way, you have completely lost. So is the art. Everything and everyone has lost. The thing art has the most in common with is dementia. It lives outside observable reality. You can't force it to conform. You just can't. So if you want to battle, you're gonna have to meet on the proper battlefield. Trying to destroy art will just damage the concept of art itself. Art is the language of the soul, so the death of art results in this sort of soullessness. It's like trying to argue with the fucking sunset. I think in some ways this trend of arguing with art is this weird obsession we have cultivated with ownership. It doesn't matter how many times that you try to copyright using copyright laws and attempt to lock up the ownership of art. It'll always fail. In the grand scheme of things, it's never done what it claims to do. You can't own art. You can't commodify it. You can't quantify it or properly define it. You can just let it exist or fucking kill it. I know it seems very cynical, but it just feels like we as a society have accepted the death of art because we can no longer grapple with its existence in this weird world that we've built. And let's be very clear, art is dangerous. It's dangerous to those intent on owning narratives, on owning concepts and outcomes. Like, stop being weird. I really thought that we'd move past this. I really thought that we had finally figured out by the 90s that we can argue back and forth about freedom of speech, but not freedom of expression. We can't argue about freedom of art to be all over the place, to be shocking, and to be deep. That is a human right. Art is a human right. Intent, meaning, impact, they're moving, growing, evolving things in art. Had we gone down the path that we are currently going down earlier, the amount of art that we would have lost is fucking staggering. Polly by Nirvana would have ended their career before it ever started. Hip-hop could not exist and grow to what it has become. Shakespeare, gone. Lord of the Rings, dead on arrival. The entire Renaissance art movement, canceled. Poetry is just out. Sorry, Emily. Every children's song that you have memorized right now, its origins are dark and fucked up. It's gotta go. Look, I love documentaries, but I fucking refuse to live in a world where there is nothing but fact-checked content. When did we decide to evict art and hand over the keys to our fucking souls to fucking content creators and influencers and turn the internet into one giant fucking tabloid? We cashed in the greatest promise for art to finally get back to where it was before Europe colonized the world for ad revenue and dopamine-fueled algorithms. My ancestors fostered the kind of environment Emily Dickinson didn't feel safe sharing her art in. I am ashamed of them. How ashamed of us are our great-grandchildren going to be? Right now, the next Kurt Cobain is hitting delete on that song she just wrote because she's terrified of being canceled, of being picked apart, losing her ability to make money. having lies spread about her, being psychologically abused to the point of wanting to end her fucking life by the left or the right. It's getting harder and harder to tell which is more dangerous to art. And if that doesn't happen, what if it sounds too similar to something else that someone else created and she gets sued out of fucking existence? That's not a hypothetical. I just had that conversation with a young artist. We have created an environment that is hostile to creativity, more than it ever has been. And just a few years ago, it was the opposite. What the fuck are we doing? Inspire and fear before the inspiration starts. I wonder how long will it take before we murder all the art. Inspire and fear before the inspiration starts. I wonder how long will it take before we murder all the art. Maybe I'm just being a hater, but fuck being a content creator. Be a motherfucking artist. Be you, be real, be unpolished. They call the art you make content, so they can commodify and monetize. Tuck you in the sheets and the better lies, so maybe you don't notice that you're paralyzed. Hold up, who controls the content? Intellectual property means a secret. So I'll be so surprised when the art and the artist feel spent. Content of the grave is a product of a slave to the algorithmic ways. Best not misbehave. Inspire and fear before the inspiration starts. I wonder how long will it take before we murder all the art. Inspire and fear before the inspiration starts. I wonder how long will it take before we murder all the art.